Hey, welcome back to another episode of Techcloud TV. Truong here. So we're exploring all things tech. Today we have Melissa Ran as our guest. This is continuation to our Women in Tech series. We get all the insights of why she works in tech and what she likes about it and her experiences. We dig deep on a deeper level. So Melissa is currently the chairwoman in Sydney Blockchain chapter, and also the head of global partnerships in Bitforward. And she's also has a new position that we can't public announce yet until it's final. But the inside information is she's going to be a community manager of a biggish VC firm in Sydney. So she's definitely a person to get in contact with and connect with if you're in the tech industry with women, or just a startup looking for investors and trying to get your name out there. So I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey guys, it's Truong here from Techcloud TV. We're just here with another installment of Women in Tech. In this instance, we have Melissa Ran. Hey Melissa, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good.
Cool, thanks for coming on the show.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I just gave that intro about yourself and that mystery about the VC you're joining. So I guess we can make that public information once we get that official word for yourself, so we can release that information.
Yeah.
Cool. So so Melissa, thanks for your time today. To give time out to the Techcloud community. Given a strong interest and a passion for women in technology, I'm honored to be able to interview you today. So Mel, how did you get started in technology, and how did you get involved with blockchain community in particular?
Okay, wow, okay. Getting into blockchain is a much longer story, how I got into tech. So first of all, my degree background is not technical, okay? So I think, and you'll see a lot of this, and I think it's an important message that women can make fantastic contributions and important impacts in technology, not necessarily having to be a software engineer or an actual tech talent. But of course we need that as well. That's very important, But for me, I had a finance and law degree and also a degree in marketing. So I was always interested in business. But as I was developing my career, it became really important to me that I was in a field that was growing, that was future driven, right? And, from kind of like a selfish point of view, I wanted to be in the field that was making other people obsolete and not waiting to be made obsolete, right? So that's why, even though my first graduate job was in Procter & Gamble, my job was selling fast moving consumer goods, shampoos and skincare. I really felt very strongly that I wanted to somehow get myself into the tech sector. But, how do you do that when you don't have, that background? So my solution was, I don't wait for anybody else to give me an opportunity. I just do it and I try to add value. So I started my own startup with a couple of co-founders from university. And through doing that process, I met my then sort of my later boss, who was running the accelerator, the startup accelerator at UNSW. So once I met him, he decided that he wanted to hire someone else. And so I became the second hire at UNSW's startup programs. So yeah, that was a huge honor, and I got to work there on and off for 5 years to build out the whole program. So I was the second hire, and now there's over 22 people in the team. And so that's how, essentially for the last decade, I've been in the startup sector. And that's also how I got into blockchain. So one of the startups that I was looking after was a blockchain startup and a blockchain community called Bitforward. And I had known Daniel for quite a few years. And I was very, very interested in this whole field. So one of my stories of why I got into blockchain, besides the very revolutionary implications of finally having a way to transact without a middle person, like that is really very foundational, very, very revolutionary. But for me personally, it's because I actually bought Bitcoins back in 2013, and very early investor in Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I sold everything in 2016, so I really missed out on the big bull run of 2017. And so getting into the sector was my way of redemption, thinking I could still, maybe there's still something more, I didn't actually miss out.
You missed out those gains, and you're basically
Yeah.
trying to make up for
I
those
hated
gains.
myself. You know, the whole of 2017, I wanted to kill myself every single day. It was like when it got to 4,000 USD, I was like, I want to die so bad. Little did I know it was gonna go even more. Yeah. So that's basically
So,
yeah.
so what do you think is the biggest challenge and opportunity for blockchain?
For blockchain, okay, so I mean, okay, I don't think there's one biggest opportunity. I think there's so many industries has very revolutionary applications of it. Okay, I think we're definitely going to see governments coming out with stable coins. And government coins. Definitely, the sort of implication for finance is already being played out. At minimum, it has created an alternative asset class. At very minimum. Okay. And I think, we can go into like people saying, oh, Bitcoin is not a currency. Whether or not it's a currency or not, okay, it's an asset and it already has value, and it's value that the world already believes in. So, I'm excited to see more development in that area. But even beyond that, definitely all the financial services application of, clearing and all the logistical applications. So all of those are very exciting. But in terms of the biggest challenge, I do feel we are still quite a fair ways away from blockchain technology and crypto commercial use being really adopted. And so to that question of what I think is really the barrier, it's not so much technical. Okay, so scale is definitely one issue, one big issue that currently makes it, if you're really going to use that as a currency, if it's not scaling as well as what Visa or MasterCard can do today, right? But I think that technical problem is being solved, and we are seeing a lot of, involvement or development in that, and it could be very fast that we're solving it in different ways. But the problem that's harder to solve is the social and the economic sort of dynamic, right? So as a new technology, any new technology, you're going to face a lot of opposition from incumbents, right? But blockchain technology is particularly challenging because the core value of the technology is so that different untrusted parties can work together. The whole value is that more people have to work together, more people who tend to be competitors or people, along a chain, right? So they're not related. Have to work together in order for this technology to get its full value. So how do you incentivize people to come together to do that? It's just, even when you're working one organization, you have so much politics, you want to push through an innovation, it's very difficult. I'm sure Truong yourself, would have a lot of sort of experiences with that. So how can you sort of solve that problem when you're working with multiple external parties and you're trying to get all of them to come to the table and agree to a solution and be a part of it? So I think, that's where it's going to take a lot of time, and it'll happen, I think, when if one group of people somehow miraculously got together and did it, and then other players will see if they don't get on board, they're going to miss out, and then you're going to get that kind of adoption. And it's sort of where we're in the process of it, but I feel like it's going to take a while, and it's very sort of frustrating work, Yeah.
So what I hear is so everyone's like a king of their own castle at the moment. And
that's where, yes. And like, they want to be that, like the power of centralization and the power of monopoly is, if you are the monopoly, you're gaining great things from it. And if you're not the monopoly, you want to build yourself to become the monopoly. So if a system is asking you to go, let's embrace this new thing where none of us own the data, and it's it's open and it's a joint thing, it's great for the end user, it's great for society, but it's not great for any of the individual players compared with what they currently can stand to gain. Yeah, you're asking them to get against their most obvious gain and interest. Yeah,
that's true. So, it's like when the internet first started. There's some people that wanted to basically just use it for themselves, not actually share it.
That's right, exactly.
And then that way forward was to actually share it out there. And and then everyone was collaborating. That's how the whole internet basically works in the first place.
Right. Yes. So with the internet, we got that kind of altruistic result, right? But how do you find things on the internet? You need a search engine, and that's just a perfect example of, on the search engine front, we have a monopoly, right? And so, but why would the founders of Google or any search engine be kind of incentivized to work so hard and to do this innovation if they didn't have the prize at the end of, now we own the internet real estate, right? And every website you can start your website, but it's not going to get found unless you go through us. And so that is tremendous economic value. And they're one of the most valuable companies in the world. So I mean, obviously blockchain brings different economic models, but it's a huge, move away from entrenched business interests. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think you answered a lot of questions with that.
Yeah.
With the last answer.
With that one
With that montage. So yeah.
Yeah.
So just a bit more, I guess, advice from, I guess, a veteran like you, been in the space. For those who are starting out, in particular in the blockchain community, what advice can you give startups around the importance of networking and learning from mentors like yourself?
Okay, so I really haven't been around that long, but it is the fun thing about our community, which is, the whole concept didn't even exist 10 years ago, or only existed 10 years ago. So anyone who's been around, who has known about this for a few years is, kind of a mentor. So, so first of all, I would say I really, like, I don't know more than anybody else. This whole sector, we're all working it out as we go. In terms of advice for, people coming into the space, I would say, as with any other life advice, it's about adding value. So whatever background you already come from, you have a lot of transferable skills and networks that you can actually bring with you to add to this, sort of apply it to the blockchain community. And, just by doing that, you don't need anybody else's permission to give you an opportunity to do something. So, for your first step into it, and I think, Truong and I, we have the exact same philosophy. We met because, you saw a project that you liked and you wanted to add value, right? And you already had, with your own very particular background, you could add value through, through the community and through, some of the publications you did, and also your own IT background as well. So yeah, we just get in there and we just learn, right? And once you start doing something, whether it's just attending events or meeting people, offering your help, however you can, you'll build a name for yourself, and very quickly, you'll become a part of the community. It's a very, very small community, and it's, it's growing. In terms of my advice, like for startups or projects, blockchain projects, I would say the best entry points are the ones that is going to be easier for the current economic model to work. It's much harder for the really, really big vision. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think maybe socially and economically, we're not quite ready for that yet. So if you have sort of a crypto like wallet or something that's a bit more consumer driven, something that people can adopt a lot easier, it's gonna really help push this whole industry forward. Yeah,
so like baby steps, like rather
exactly.
than change the world with crypto and wipe out all the banks, we need baby steps to transfer normal users over. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. So it's going to be incremental, and once you have that, you're able to do the next thing. It's like every startup, every huge startup, they didn't start out being like doing the same strategies that they do today as they are a giant. When they're very small, they did everything that didn't scale. Like if you look at Airbnb, it's just like a couple guys going around trying to get everyone to offer up their apartment. Like it's very unglamorous and it's very sort of grassroots. And then once you build big enough, that's when you can actually start, playing around with bigger visions and getting, more powerful and more important people into the room. So yeah, that's my personal preference. Like I think that's what is going to work versus what's not going to work.
Oh, awesome. So for those females out there who are looking to take a jump into technology, or are already starting off their careers in technology, or are building their own startups, what is the most valuable piece of advice you have received in your career that you will pass on? I guess just talk about the value add that you mentioned before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I can reiterate that, but I mean, there's a really sort of famous quote that goes, seek not for a life of success, but a life of value. That's something that I personally stand by, and I think it is that attitude that has gotten me every single career opportunity I've ever had in my life. And also in our current generation, it's all about giving first, receiving later, right? So you first have to figure out what can you give that is of value. And if you can't figure that out, you need to, develop yourself a bit more and learn a bit more before you can expect to get any benefits out of it. But beyond that, like in particular, in terms of for women, I think it's incredibly important to surround yourself with supporters who are genuine and who are like the right kind of people, right? So be really vigilant against if you're sort of dealing with people, and they might be someone who looks powerful and successful, but if when you're dealing with them you feel like they're a bit of a predator, they're a bit of a creep, or they're kind of using tactics that's putting you down, or kind of that kind of power dynamics, no matter how successful and how powerful they are, it's not worth it. Okay, that way leads to pain. There is more than enough really genuine, and I guess I am making a stereotype of if you're seeking mentors who are more experienced, they tend to be a lot of them tend to be men, because that's just the kind of gender dynamics of our industry. So there are a lot of men who are genuinely respectful, who want to pay it forward, who want to take you under his wing, and of course there are other women as well, but I guess I'm a particular supporter of diversity means actually diverse. So having a room full of women, right, trying to help each other and talking to each other about it, it has its use, but you're never going to reach the mainstream, right? So even when I run women in blockchain events, I'm very, very conscious that I want the whole community represented, and I really value having male allies at our events. So it's about thinking of your career and not really, and also not really defining yourself so much as, oh, I'm a woman working on, I'm a woman, like ultimately if you have value, it will speak for itself. But of course it will, being in a field that is very male dominated, and there might be a lot of sort of culturally, male dominated things that people might say or people might think, they just might not take into account your perspective and your experiences. But in those kind of scenarios, it's about very educating people, but being humble about it, not like, for me anyway, like I think it's not really helpful to name and shame people. It's more helpful to have honest and direct but private discussions, where you, like, if someone does something that you're not, you find offensive, explain that to them, but in a respectful way, so that other people can actually understand your perspective and go, oh, okay, wow, you're really right, and I'll change my behavior, right? As opposed to like having a Twitter war or flaying people and then name and shame them publicly, you're just only going to end up with more, I guess, like more sort of stigma and more sensitivity on both sides,
For sure. Yeah, I think we're seeing that with a lot of blockchain leaders, where they take things out on Twitter rather than take that in a private room.
Yes.
I get that.
Yes. I mean, it's almost like you kind of feel like you have to do it because our industry is so active on Twitter. And you want to get a viral post, you want to get a lot of attention, but I think that is useful in some circumstances, but the real hard work and the real positive work, I think, has to be really positive, people to people links, people having genuine connection, genuinely understanding each other.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, just moving on. So
went to different places, but
just moving on to the next question. So what's the most challenging situation you ever faced in your career, and how did you overcome it?
I'll leave off the female stuff. I have to have some bad experience in the past, but I think I've covered that in a very positive way. I think so. Obviously, the whole blockchain space being so volatile, I think the huge ups and downs of last year in particular was very challenging. But I think the less challenging part for me personally isn't so much the sort of volatility in the industry, but for all of us to figure out, constantly figuring out in our careers, what's our next step? What am I doing currently? Is that still meeting all my needs? And as we grow as human beings, I definitely have found that my values and a lot of my interests, my priorities have really shifted. Once I turned 30, basically, it's just like all of a sudden I'm a different person. I want different things, and so you realize, oh wow, everything I've built so far for my career is built towards chasing one goal. Now I possibly want totally different goals. And I felt definitely that there's a sense of, oh, I'm starting over from zero, and and I really don't know where else to go, and just that sort of self-reflection process, and you have to be patient, because we live in a world where it seems like, because of social media, everybody else is constantly got good news and everything's happening, and you have that pressure of feeling like I need to know what I'm doing every step. Constantly being on. And I think that's really damaging. I think that's one of the reasons why we have such high mental health and mental illness rates nowadays. So I think I would encourage everyone to really just sort of take a deep breath, give yourself the time to really just listen to your own voice. You don't have to be on all the time. You don't have to know what you're doing. The most successful people in the world don't know what they're doing. Okay, the next thing, that we're all just sort of living out a hypothesis and doing the best that we can. So I guess like that for me is challenging, just that process of working it out. But then once again, I go back to adding value. So when I don't know what to do, I give. I give and I do what I can to make a positive impact. And always, okay, it will come back to me in a good way. Opportunities will come that I've never expected. That leads me in another awesome way.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So yeah, it's moving on. So how can we attract more female talent into the technology sector going forward? And what do you believe are the biggest roadblocks to date?
Well, I mean, okay. So first of all, I think girls today are much luckier. Girls growing up in Australia, there's so many initiatives to promote STEM, right? STEM education to more diverse audiences. So whereas I didn't have that, when I was picking universities, I didn't even know what engineering meant. I did not know, like I really regret it. Okay, it's my one regret that I didn't do engineering. I did a law degree instead. So girls nowadays, like definitely they are being encouraged. So I think if for whatever reason they end up doing it and then not enjoying it, or they end up not in the sector, it's probably because the job opportunities in the sector are not that interesting or that inclusive for women. So so in terms of that element of it, it's just the sort of the work for all businesses, and especially for technology startups, to be conscious of diversity and inclusion. And the thing is, it's not just gender, it's race, right? You and I are both racial minorities as well in this country. So, and also in terms of your degree background, or maybe not even having a degree. So it's that whole that attitude of embracing people with different backgrounds will end up bringing perspectives that ultimately will lead to a better result. So yeah, it's just creating an environment that is appropriate, that where like the kind of jokes or the way that people are interacting with each other, and the jokes that people tell, just being a bit conscious of people from different backgrounds. And try not to complain about the misses in board meetings, basically. That's one of my pet peeves. Okay.
Sure. So moving on, so where do you hope to see the industry in the next 5 years in respect to inclusivity?
I don't know, it's just so broad. I mean, how do I put a number on it, right? It's obviously, like, one is the industry has to be stronger, like even more than inclusivity, like that really comes secondary in the sense that I hope there is more headway being made towards blockchain technology being actually adopted, cool and more interesting commercialized ways of, and even as cryptocurrency as an alternative asset, right? Seeing more and more funds that actually is interested in that, investing in that. So that's going to be amazing for the industry. And of course, the byproduct would be it's a more attractive industry for people to come into, both men and women. And then, to see more women in leadership roles, impactful roles in this industry. Yeah, that's pretty much, like we're getting there. It's like it's obviously like we do have a lot of companies and startups who are very conscious of diversity, and and so it's kind of just because we're just one sub industry of the bigger sort of STEM innovation industry.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, just so the next question is, how can the community get more or support the initiative of women in blockchain?
Women blockchain. Oh, well, go to meetup.com .org, meetup.org, and search for Women in Blockchain. There's chapters all over the world. So if you're in Sydney, then join our meetup group. And if you're a startup, then offer to sponsor us. So we'll definitely be having regular events. There should be one end of August. We're still working on that. So yeah, just participating and volunteering is the kind of support we are looking for.
Yeah, basically, all the men out there, if you want to support your ladies in blockchain.
Yes, exactly. We are very
get
keen
involved.
for more men to support the women in blockchain. Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you, Mel, for your great insights you provided today. I'm truly inspired, but the level of impact that you have on the community, both as a mentor and a role model for the females. Thank you for taking the time out today to be so candid with us, and hopefully all those out there looking to get involved in the technology community, I hope this has inspired you to join our community. Thanks for watching another video on Techcloud TV. If you want to subscribe, click on here. And if you want to check out our other videos, click on here. I'll see you in the next one.